Hi, welcome to my sporting show, Kavindu Sporting Times. Today on the latest episode. Before start the show, I want to hit the like button and subscribe to my show. And I want you to tell me if there's any sports that you want me to talk about. So now let's get started. Sports, so much to talk about. Varieties from football to cricket to motor racing, so much. Now let's get started with the most talked about controversy right now, the Super League. Now, Super League, where 10 to 12 teams from Europe is going to form their own league. Think of it like the IPL for Asian viewers. Think like the IPL. Now, football is a very traditional sport, and it's also a very global sport, which is, to be fair, it's true. Now, that means football has lots of fans, and that means lots of criticism and lots of backlash. And that is acceptable in football. Football can't exist without fans. Now, one of the biggest controversies is that it takes the ethics of the game, and they are technically saying is that the Super League is a financial gaining purpose because of the pandemic. Now, it's true in a way because these clubs are financial institutions anyway, despite their football. Remember, the teams like Manchester United or Chelsea or these teams are, end of the day, they are financial institutions despite their football. They do care about how much money they earn through sponsors and etc. And the pandemic hurt them dearly, something to consider. But the question is the Super League going to affect football in general? The answer is, for me, not quite. When the Premier League was first created, the same things were happening back in the days. I wasn't there, but according to many people, that was the same fact when the Premier League was first created. And that means when you do something new, there is always going to be opposition. And when you're doing something new, there is going to be disadvantages and advantages. And I'm going to say this. I am not a fan of the Super League because European football has to stay Europeanized. Because some things have to stay traditional, and football is a traditional sport, it has to. And they have to learn to expand the sport within the range. And that's my stand. But if the game has to change, I am not opposing that either. The only thing I care is looking at an important football match. If I can see Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo playing, I wouldn't mind seeing him playing. So moving on from that, let's talk about the F1 Racing Championship. Now, in the first race, Lewis Hamilton won. Max Verstappen came very, very close. And this time around, Max Verstappen won the race. In the second F1 championship, he won. And of course, just so you remember, Lewis Hamilton, when actually after incident, he was at 5th. Then he came back to 2nd. So that should be applauded from Lewis Hamilton. Now this victory showcases how close is it between Mercedes and Red Bull at the moment. Now this means that means for Lewis Hamilton, there is a tremendous challenge he has to face in the upcoming races, and because Max Verstappen is not going to let him go just yet, and that is something to deeply consider. And of course, there's something to deeply think about that end of the day. And of course, Ferrari performed fairly well actually. Charles Leclerc, and of course Carlos Sainz once again in the top 6, finishing fairly well. But the big question is, can Mercedes-Benz pull ahead of Red Bull? Yes, I believe they will, because Lewis Hamilton is a champion. We know the titles he won, and he is the modern day Michael Schumacher. And if he's modern day Schumacher, as we know he is, well, he should win. We know he's winning. And this defeat was only a close defeat. He's going to make his comeback extremely soon. And of course, the standings showcases that Mercedes-Benz is actually, now let's talk about driver standings actually. These are top 6 driver standings, just so you know. Lewis Hamilton 44 points, Max Verstappen 43, and Lando Norris 27, Charles Leclerc 20, and a few more is there as well. So that's the top 4 within the top 6 I want to mention. Now you can see how tight between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, but don't be fooled by now. There are many more races to go. I would say let's wait at least until 3 races to settle who's best. Because best out of 3, we will see who's best. Because let's not judge. Because as enthusiasts, let's have an open mind about it. It's super important that we do so. You know, while team standings, Mercedes-Benz got 60 points and Red Bull 53 points. McLaren 41 and Ferrari 34, and Alpine at Torino coming at 8 points. You can see Mercedes-Benz is still dominating, and that's no surprising here. Something to remember. Now moving on from there, I got few more sports to cover. Actually, let's talk about cricket. Shall we? Let's talk about cricket. Chiang Mai Super Kings managed to beat the Kolkata Knight Riders to win the IPL tournament. They are winning by a margin of 18 runs, I would presume. And let's scoreboard. Well, Chiang Mai Super Kings far to places, scoring unbeaten on 95, and the young Indian opener scoring 64 in the top order. And Mahendra Singh Dhoni and Ravindra Jadeja all contributing for Chennai Super Kings to have a dominant victory. But Kolkata Knight Riders did make a good comeback. At one stage they were 31 for 5. They made an astonishing comeback from 31 for 202 all out, thanks to Pat Cummins on 66, Andre Russell on 54, and Dinesh Karthik of 40 runs. So as you can see, it was a close game, but they had no right to make it that close. Of course, let's talk about Pakistan. Of course, Pakistan-Zimbabwe T20 series. Pakistan managed to beat Zimbabwe as expected. Pakistan scored 149 for 7 in their 20 overs with Mohammad Rizwan top scoring. And Zimbabwe in return scored 130 for 7. Zimbabwe were in track in one stage, but they fell short in the end, with Craig Irvine scoring 34 runs in the end. So something, so as expected, Pakistan 1-0 up. Now one more extra addition, scoop of addition I'm going to put in is Sri Lanka Bangladesh in the first test match. Sri Lanka today, Bangladesh batted first and scored 302 for loss of 2, end of day 1. Centuries for the young Bangladeshi batsman, and Tamim Iqbal scoring 90, and the Bangladesh keeper Monimul Haq is now at the batting crease. Now for Sri Lanka, this is extreme concern. They have to take wickets. If they don't, Bangladesh could go ahead in the test match. So something you should know. On this note, I'm going to end the video. Hit the like button and subscribe before end the video. Thank you very much.